When the British arrived in India, they found a politically fragmented yet economically flourishing land. The Mughal dynasty, weakened by the reign of Shah Jahan's successor, the fanatical Aurangzeb, disintegrated after his 50-year misrule. Upon his death, the empire broke into numerous independent states ruled by petty princes. This conflict made it easy for English traders, equipped with advanced European weaponry and ruthless tactics, to conquer one Hindu province after another, bringing them under the control of the British East India Company. It may be hard to imagine today, given the extreme poverty and fragility of modern Hindus, but it was the immense wealth of 18th century Bharat that drew the commercial adventurers of England and France. The Hindus generated immense wealth through their diverse industries. Bharat produced nearly every type of manufactured goods known to the civilized world, prized for both utility and beauty. Far better than any European or Asian nation, Bharat's textiles, crafted from cotton, wool, linen, and silk, were famous globally. Its attractive jewelry and intricately cut precious stones, its pottery, porcelains, and ceramics of unmatched quality and design, and its masterful works in iron, steel, silver, and gold, all testify to its industrial prowess. Bharat boasted architecture and engineering feats equal to the world's best, and its merchants, businessmen, bankers, and financiers were among the greatest. As the leading shipbuilding nation, Bharat's vast commerce and trade network spanned to all known civilized countries. This was the Bharat that the British encountered upon their arrival. The East India Company set its sights on appropriating this immense wealth. As early as 1686, its directors announced their intention to establish a permanent and powerful English dominion in Bharat. The company leased trading ports at Madras, Calcutta, and Bombay from Hindu authorities and fortified them with troops and cannons, often without permission. In 1756, the Raja of Bengal, angered by this encroachment, attacked Fort William, capturing it and imprisoning 146 Englishmen in the Black Hole of Calcutta, where only 23 survived until the morning. The following year, Robert Clive decisively defeated the Bengal forces at Plassey, with only 22 British casualties, and declared the East India Company as the ruler of Bharat's wealthiest province. Clive expanded British control through a mix of treaty manipulation, strategic alliances, and extensive bribery. In one instance, $4 million was sent downriver to Calcutta in a single shipment, while gifts and payments totaling to $1,170,000 were extorted from Hindu rulers reliant on British favour and firepower. The East India Company began a century-long exploitation of Bharat's resources. They profited immensely, buying goods for $2 million in Bharat and selling them for $10 million in England. Engaging in inland trade, they refused to pay the tolls imposed by Hindu traders, securing a profitable monopoly. The company's dividends were so substantial that its stock soared to $32,000 per share. Agents manipulated Hindu rulers based on bribes, collecting to $30 million in a decade through such means. They forged documents when convenient and punished Hindus harshly for the same offense. Robert Clive installed Mir Jafar as Bengal's ruler for $6 million. His successors deposed Mir Jafar for Mir Qasim with $1 million and then restored Mir Jafar for $2 million 3 years later, and eventually replaced him with Najimud-Dawla for $1 million. The company imposed such heavy taxes that 2/3 of the population fled. defaulters were caged and exposed to the sun, and the fathers sold their children to pay rising rates. They typically demanded 50% of the land's net produce. An English-written Bombay administration report noted that every effort, lawful and unlawful, was made to extract as much as possible from the destitute peasantry who endured torture, often cruel and revolting beyond description, if they couldn't meet the demands. Warren Hastings extorted immense sums from the native princes, demanding up to $250,000 for the company's treasury. He accepted bribes to stop extortion, only to demand more and annex states unable to pay. Torture was used by his agents to extract contributions. Hastings aided the Nawab of Oudh in robbing his own mother and grandmother to secure $5 million for the company. He then occupied and sold Oudh to a prince for $2 million and lent a British army to a Hindu Raja for $2 million. The Oxford History of India notes everything and everyone was for sale. Macaulay adds that after Clive left Bengal, English misgovernment reached levels that threatened the societal collapse. Company servants forced natives to buy at high prices and sell cheaply, amassing vast fortunes in Calcutta while 30 million people suffered extreme misery. The natives had known tyranny but never as severe as this. Under their former rulers, they could revolt against unbearable oppression. However, the English government, as oppressive as the worst barbarian despotism, was fortified by the strength of civilization and could not easily be overthrown. By 1856, the British government assumed control over the territories captured and plundered by the East India Company, converting them into a crown colony. This tiny island nation took command of half a continent. England compensated the company generously, adding this cost to India's public debt to be repaid by taxing the Hindu population, initially at an interest of about 10.5%. All company debts and their accrued interest were also transferred to India's public obligations, further burdening the local population. The exploitation continued, now cloaked under the guise of legal formality set by the conquerors, adding hypocrisy to brutality. State after the state was expropriated from the native rulers through war, bribery, or Lord Dalhousie's decree that the territories of Hindu princes without direct heirs would pass to the British. During Dalhousie's administration alone, 8 states were annexed in this manner. Province after province was taken over by offering rulers a stark choice between a pension and a war. In the latter half of 19th century, England steadily expanded its Indian territory. 4,000 square miles in 1860s, 15,000 in 1870s, 19,000 in 1880s, and 133,000 in 1890s. John Morley estimated that during this century, England waged 111 wars in India, primarily using Indian troops. Millions of Hindus sacrificed their lives, making their own land a slave to British rule. The cost of these conquests was entirely borne by Indian taxes, allowing the English to boast about subjugating India without spending a penny on their own. Over 40 years, they seized 250,000 square miles, making the conquered pay for every expense. When the exhausted Hindus finally resisted in 1857, the rebellion was brutally crushed with medieval ferocity. Captured rebels were often executed by being blown apart from the mouths of the cannons. The London Spectator noted that at least 100,000 Indians' lives were taken during what English called the Sepoy Mutiny, and Hindus referred to the War of Independence. A report to the House of Commons in 1804 revealed that the condition of the Indian people had deteriorated since the company's rule. In 1826, Bishop Heber observed the peasantry in the company-controlled provinces were worse off, poorer, and more dispirited than those under native princes. He noted that many believed the people were overtaxed and the country was gradually impoverishing. Historian James Mill wrote that the British misgovernment plunged regions like Oudh and Karnataka into a state of wretchedness unparalleled in the world. In 1830, Briggs remarked that no previous government has implemented a system as suppressive to the people's prosperity as the British administration. F.J. Shore, British administrator in Bengal, testified to the House of Commons in 1857, highlighting the exploitative nature of British rule. He said, "The fundamental principle of English has been to make the entire Indian nation subservient in every possible way to their own interests and benefits. They have been taxed to the utmost limit. Every newly acquired province has become a field of higher extraction, and it has always been our boast of how greatly we have raised the revenue beyond what the native rulers could extract. The Indians have been excluded from every honor, dignity, or office that even the lowest Englishman could be convinced to accept." This testimony underscores how British rule, despite its minor improvement, systematically dismantled Hindu civilization and subjugated its people, making them serve British interests above all else. The toll of British rule on India is immeasurable. Countless lives were lost in wars of conquest, with Indian blood split to fuel the ambitions of distant colonial masters. The Sepoy Mutiny, known to the English as a mere rebellion, was in reality a valiant struggle for independence, costing the lives of hundreds of thousands of brave Indians who dared to defy their oppressors. Under British rules, India's once thriving civilization was systematically dismantled. Ancient traditions were disregarded, industries decimated, and the very essence of Hindu culture undermined. The promises of progress and development rang hollow as poverty, suffering, and despair became the lot of millions. Even as we confront this painful chapter in history, let us not forget the resilience and the spirit of Indian people. Despite centuries of oppression, they have endured their indomitable will, shining bright amidst the darkest of times. Today, as we reckon with the legacy of British imperialism, let us honor the memory of those who fought and sacrificed for freedom, and strive to build a world where justice, equality, and dignity prevail for all.